All right, in this tutorial, we are going to finally add that tab navigation to our app. So just to kind of give you a preview of what we're going to be doing, I've got my app up here. We're going to log in, and when we sign in, it'll display our navigation here at the bottom with some little icons. And if I click here, this will be active color and then info. So I've got 3 screens and I can navigate between them. I can also go from this screen back to that screen, and then I'm gonna sign out and it should take me back to our sign in page. So let's go ahead and get started adding this. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and open your project in VS Code, and then we're gonna go open a terminal, and let me just go ahead and expand this. And then we're going to be using a package called React Navigation. If you go to reactnavigation.org and then go to the docs here and the get started, we're going to start here at the top in installation. The bare minimum we need is this React Navigation native package. So copy that, and then we'll do npm install. Oops. And then we'll just paste that here and make sure you add -- save. So this can save to our project's packages.json file. All right, so now that that's installed, let's see. The next step, we want to install some more dependencies. We don't want to do anything with Expo. We've used a bare React Native, so we're going to follow these instructions. So I'm going to copy again this here. Go back to my terminal, paste it, and again, let's just do -- save. All right, we're gonna need another package here. So since that was the bare minimum, there's a bunch of different packages here, kind of like they say they're like building blocks. So we're gonna use the stack package here. So copy that, and we'll paste that in, -- save. And then there's one more, and then we'll be done with installing everything we need. The next one we want is the tab navigator. So there's a tab and there's also a drawer. A drawer is kind of like this type of navigation. We won't be installing this. We're just going to be installing the tab. So npm install here again, go to your terminal, and then -- save. All right, and then finally, we're gonna cd to iOS and install these for our iOS packages. So pod install and return. All right, now that that's done, let's go ahead and see if we can run our app. So cd up one directory and then React native run iOS. All right, so now our app is running. Let's go ahead. First thing we want to do is open your app.js, and at the very top here of your file, before all the other imports, we are going to import React Native Gesture Handler, and make sure this stays at the very top. And nothing comes before this. All right. And then next, we're going to create a new file in our source directory. We're going to call this user context.js. And we're going to use this file to share our auth data between the components so that we don't have to explicitly pass them through. Import React from React, and then it's just const user context equals react.create context, and it passes it an object. We'll say user data, and we'll just set that to null for now, and then export default user context. All right. and save that. The next thing we want to do, we're going to create a new folder in our source directory called screens. Okay, I already have a directory called screens. If you don't, go ahead and create one. Mine's empty. I'm going to create a new file in there called home.js. So this is just going to be a bare minimum home screen landing page. So first thing first, we're going to import React from React. Let's move this out of the way so we can see. And we'll just import safe area, view, and text components from React Native. And then const home props, pass that in. And then we're just going to return safe area view. So this component, what it'll do is it'll safely display the content of your screen, so it's not covered by these navigation, etc. up here. All right. And then let's just do text home screen. That's not right. Let's go ahead and fix this. Oops. So we're going to return safe area view, and we're just going to display a text that says home screen. And I'm also going to add a little bit of styling to this. We'll make it a flex box, and we'll justify content center and align items center. We have our home screen, and remember we had a home, a profile, and a about in the bottom nav, so we need 3 screens for those. I'm just going to copy home a couple of times and rename it. I'm going to rename this profile, and I'll rename this one about. Actually, I'm going to create one more, and I'm going to call this my info. All right, let's go and change the text in these. Actually, we did forget one thing. We need to export this so we can import it into our components and use it. And then for about, let's just call this about, and then we'll say about screen. Export default about. So we have about, we have home, and then let's do my info screen, export default my info. Same for profile. All right, so we have profile, my info, home, and about. So we've got all our screens, we have our user context, and then finally we need to add another component for our navigation. So I'm creating a file called navigation.js inside the components directory. First thing we're going to do, we're going to import React from React. This is a component. And then a couple things, we need navigation components from those dependencies. So we'll need from @React, React navigation native. And what we need from this one is navigation container. Then we also need import a component from React Navigation Stack. And what we need from that is create Stack Navigator. Then we're going to import from React bottom tabs. And what we need from here is create bottom tab navigator. So this is to create our stack, this is our tabs, and then this is our navigation container itself. All right, and then I'm gonna use import icon from React native vector icons. I'm using ionic icons. Let's just call this ionic icon. If you just Google React Native Vector Icons, I'm going into the directory here. So I'm going to be using these icons here for the icons in the bottom tab in my navigation. And you can use any of these. I'm going to use a couple from Ionic Icons. And you can use any of them, or you can mix and match whichever ones you like. Next, we're going to import all our screens. So let's do that. Import screens. So import home from screens home. Import about. And then import profile. And then we had my info. All right, one more thing I want to import up here, a few things actually. Let's import text and dimensions from React Native. I'm going to use this dimensions to set the width of the tab at the bottom of the screen. And let's just declare a const full screen width equals dimensions dot get, and it's window dot width. All right, that is I think all we need to import for now. All right, so we're gonna create a stack by calling create stack navigator. And we're gonna create 3 stacks, meaning each of those tabs in the bottom of our tab is a stack of screens. So we're gonna define a function called home stack screen. Oops. And this is gonna return stack.navigator, and within this I'm going to return stack.screen, and this has a couple of props: name for the name of the screen, and the component that it'll render. This will be home. This will be our home screen, and that's all we're going to have on the home stack. So any additional or subsequent screens you want to add, like I can navigate within this screen to sign in. This would all go into one stack if it was the home screen. And we'll go over that with an example in a little bit. So let's copy this. So we can just use that for our about, and this is going to be about And this is going to be about. Okay, and then we're going to paste it one more time for our profile. All right, so we have 3 stacks, a home, an about, and a profile stack. And they each return the stack navigator, so it can navigate to all the screens within this stack. So let's say within the profile screen, I want to go to the My Info, so I'm going to add another stack.screen name equal My Info and component equal My Info. So I could even go, oh, I want to go to the about from within there. I could do that, but I'm not going to. But you can navigate within the screen to any other screen that you like. You just have to include it within the stack. And again, we'll go over an example of this. All right, next, let's go ahead and define tab, which equals create bottom tab navigator. We're going to define our navigation component. And this is going to return a navigation container, and that will include tab.navigator. And then in the tab navigator, we're going to include each of the tabs that we're going to display down here. And to do that, it's tab.screen. And this also has props, name of the tab, and then the component. Here the component is going to be the stack that we defined above. So this is going to be home stack screen. And then let's do about, oops. And then profile. So now it'll display them in this order. If you want the profile to be in the middle and the about here, then you can just reverse those. All right, let's go ahead and set up our icons for our tabs. And to do that, we're gonna set a couple of properties on the tab navigator. One of these is screen options. And that has a prop we're going to destructure called route, which has some properties on it for our screen routes. All right. And then the properties here are going to be header, title. These are just default props that we want to set. Set these to anything you like. For now, I'm just going to say header. The one we really want to set is the tab bar icon. And this one has some props. Focused, color, size, padding. Let's put a comma here. And then here, we're going to return that ionic icon component. So first thing I want to do is I want to set up an icon name based on the route or the screen name, basically. So the route.name is my screen. I'm going to say if it equals home, then my icon name. If it's focused, then I'm going to call it home. Otherwise, it'll be home outline. So let's pull this guy up here. So let's see, it's a little hard to navigate in here. Here we go. So home and home outline. So that's the name that I'm passing in, home and home outline. And that's right here. If the screen is active, it'll be the filled icon. Otherwise, it's the outline version. So let's do else if route.name equal about, oops, then icon name equal focused. We'll do information circle. Otherwise, it's information circle outline. And finally, if our route.name is profile, we're gonna set icon name. If it's focused, oops, we're gonna set it to person. Otherwise, it'll be person outline. And of course, you can go through and choose any of these that you like. All right, now that we've set up our icon name, we're gonna return the component that's gonna be displayed in the tab in the bottom. So I'm using ionic icon, and it has name equal icon name. And then I also have size equals size, and then color equal color. And finally, I'm gonna add style equal, I'm gonna give it some padding to the bottom, actually. Oops. Padding bottom, and it's padding. And you'll see in a minute where or how to set these. See, these are passed in through here, and these are going to be passed in through. And then we also have, so this was all within screen options. Now we're going to set up is the tab bar options. And that just has a couple of properties, active tint color, which I'm going to use that light sea green. You can set this to whatever you like. Then inactive tint color, mine will be gray. And that's just the color of that icon. When I click on it, if I'm on the screen, it'll be light sea green. If not, it'll be gray. Label style to set the font of the label on that icon, or the label on the name of the tab. And label style, let's do font size 16. Finally, I'm gonna set the style. I'm gonna set width to that full screen width that we defined earlier up here, which was the full width of the screen. Okay. I think that wraps up our navigation component. All right, next, let's go ahead and open your app.js. And we imported gesture handler. Next thing we need to import that navigation component we just created from components. And we also need to import the user context. Okay. We're already getting a error here. Let's see, unexpected token in navigation.js. Line 83, let's see. What did we do here? Okay, I see. This should be a colon here. All right, there we go. All right, we're good here. Now let's go back to app. We've got those two imported. So this is our landing page when you're signed in. I'm going to go ahead and change this, and we're going to remove all of this. So instead, we're going to return that user context, and we're going to wrap the navigator. So this is how we're passing through to all our screens the auth data. So we're going to pass props.auth data to our navigator by doing this here. Now all our screens can consume this data, use it, display it however we want to use it. But this is just one way you can pass props through your components here. Oops, it should be user context, sorry, dot provider. And this should be dot provider. Okay, that was wrong. And that should also be user context dot provider. All right, let's see what else we have here. So we have this button sign out if the user is signed in. So let's get rid of this because we won't be using this anymore. Let's actually delete all this. And we've got one more view there. All right. So, and then for this part of the screen, we're only going to display this if the user is logged in. So I'm just going to add a line of code here right before the view, and then wrap that around that. So now if there's user data, then display this. Otherwise, we won't be displaying login with Apple. Sorry, if user is not logged in. If user is not logged in, you see what happened is the user is logged in, it'll display it. So it disappeared. So we don't want to do that. We want to only display those login buttons if the user is not logged in. All right, let's give this a test drive and see if it's working. So I'm going to go ahead, log in, open. All right, so something's wrong. Nothing's being displayed. Let's see if we've got any errors. All right, so if you can see right in my authenticator, I have a console.log props.auth state, and that's outputting verify contact. The reason mine is doing that is because I never verified the contact when I signed up with Google. I got the email, I didn't come back and put my confirmation code. So for now, since I don't have that case, I'm gonna say verify contact, and I'm gonna still return that home screen here. All right, so there's an error here. Can't find navigator, of course. It's called navigation. Okay, looks like we have another error. A navigator can only contain screen components. All right, so that looks like it's in our navigator. I see. So our navigator, stack navigator here, has this screen. I misspelled this. This should be uppercase screen. All right, let's see if that fixes our issue there. There we go. All right, now we can navigate between our screens here. All right, so let's add a couple of things to our profile screen. First, let's add maybe a sign out button so we can actually sign out and test to make sure that it's going to go back to the sign in page. So to sign out, we need to import auth from AWS Amplify, and then we're also going to need button from React Native, and then we'll just do button title equals sign out, and on press equals, and we're just gonna call auth.sign out, and let's close this. All right, let's go ahead and sign out and see what happens. There we go, we're landed back here. I'm gonna go ahead and sign back in one more time, and there you go. Took a little while to render, but this is in our simulator. It shouldn't be as slow in our actual device. So now I'd like to show you how to go between screens from here. So in that stack in our navigation, we have profile and my info. So we want to get to the my info. Apparently we can't get to it from here, right? So how do I get to this my info screen? Let's go ahead and demonstrate that. So let's go back to our profile, and I'm going to create another button. I'm going to call it my info. My info, and then on press here is going to use a navigation which is on our props here. So that's the navigation. So I'm going to use navigation from our props. So props.navigation, and we're just going to call navigate, and that'll take argument for the screen name that we want to navigate to. And then let's pass it, if we want to pass parameters to this, we'll include them here as an object. So I'll call my parameter greeting, and I'll just say hello. All right. So now I should be able to go to my info screen. There you go. And it automatically creates a nice flow between the screens, as you can see. Now, how do I read this parameter that I passed to my info screen? Also, remember we wrapped our navigator and our app in the user context provider to pass down auth data. Maybe I would like to display some of my user info on this page. How would I access that as well? So here in my info, I'm going to destructure navigation and route. Those are all part of the props that are passed through to our screen. So I'm going to go ahead and destructure params from the route. Let's see if we can display that greeting. So we'll go params dot greeting. All right, there you go. It says hello. So we can get rid of this info screen. It'll just say hello. All right, now how do we display our user data? So we are going to use a React hook called use context, not callback, use context. And we're also going to import user context from user, And we're also going to import user context from all right. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set user data equal to, I'm going to use that hook, use context, and I'm going to pass it the user context, and that'll return the data that's stored there. All right, and then next I'm going to destructure username from user data. And then let's see if we can display that here. All right, my info. Let's see, so user data is undefined, so let's just set this so that if it is undefined, it'll just be an empty object so we don't get that error. Another way we can do this is we can say const username equals user data dot username, or it's blank. So I like that better just because it doesn't throw that error. All right, so there's no username. Something is not right here. Let's check our app.js and see. Okay, so I see what's going on. You see, we need to pass the props through to our home component here. That's how it gets the auth data, but there's no props being passed through. So we forgot to do that. Let's do props. And then save that. Let's go back and see if we see our username now. There we go. So now we have our username being displayed in that my info page. And then if I go back here, I've got sign out, and let's just make sure one more time. Yep, everything looks like it's working still. All right, that wraps up these tutorials. Hopefully in the next tutorials, we can cover maybe Lambda functions, GraphQL, or animation. If you have any requests, let me know down below in the comments. And as always, if you like these tutorials, please hit the subscribe button, and see you guys soon.